$3. That's all I have for my birthday cake. The young woman's whisper barely reached the bakery clerk, who looked down at the crumpled bills with genuine sorrow. Outside, snow fell on the quiet street, while inside, Emma sat frozen in her wheelchair, staring at the smallest cake in the display. $4, her 22nd birthday, and she couldn't even afford a single celebration. Then the door burst open, bringing winter air and laughter as a man and his daughter entered, changing everything. Emma had once been a promising music student at the conservatory, her professors predicting a brilliant future as a concert pianist. She practiced 8 hours daily, lived and breathed music. Then came the night that shattered everything. A drunk driver, a red light, the sound of crushing metal. When she woke 3 weeks later in the hospital, the doctors delivered their verdict: complete paralysis below the waist. She would never walk again. Her parents had died when she was 12. Her grandmother had raised her after that, teaching Emma that dignity mattered more than money. But cancer had taken her grandmother just months after Emma's accident. Now Emma existed rather than lived in a studio apartment where mice scratched in the walls. She taught online piano students through a laptop screen, her fingers demonstrating on a cheap keyboard bought from a pawn shop. The real piano, her grandmother's beautiful upright, had been sold to pay medical bills. Friends had evaporated like morning mist after her accident. The loneliness had become a constant companion. Her birthday had always been special when her grandmother was alive. This year she had decided to create her own celebration. For weeks she had saved coins and crumpled bills, skipping meals. $3 accumulated slowly, hidden in an envelope marked with a drawn heart. She had seen the cake yesterday through the bakery window, the smallest one on display for dollars. Daniel Thompson stood at 6 feet tall, worth several $1 million from his tech company that specialized in cybersecurity. He had learned long ago that money couldn't buy the things that mattered. It couldn't bring back his wife Sarah, who had died 4 years ago from a brain aneurysm when Sophie was only 2. Sophie was his universe now. A bright, chattering 6-year-old with her mother's green eyes and infectious smile. Today he had brought her to the bakery because she had been selected as Student of the Week in kindergarten. Sophie bounded toward the display case. "Daddy, look at all the cakes." She pressed her nose against the glass. "That one." Sophie pointed decisively at a chocolate cake with rainbow decorations. As the clerk began boxing their selection, Sophie's attention shifted to the young woman maneuvering her wheelchair toward the door. "Wait," Daniel said softly. Emma paused, their eyes met across the small space. And in that moment something shifted in the air between them. "I couldn't help but overhear," Daniel said, crouching down to her eye level. "Today's your birthday?" Emma nodded, unable to trust her voice. Sophie had abandoned the cake display and now stood beside her father. "You're pretty," the little girl announced. "Why are you in that chair?" "My friend Marcus has a chair too. I was in an accident. My legs don't work anymore, but the chair helps me get around." Sophie considered this information seriously. "You should get unicorn stickers or stars." "Daddy, she doesn't have stickers or a birthday cake. That's 2 problems." Daniel stood slowly. "Would you let us buy your cake as a birthday gift from strangers who believe birthdays should always have cake?" Emma's pride wared with her poverty. "I couldn't. You don't even know me." "Then let's fix that," Daniel said, extending his hand. "I'm Daniel. This is Sophie. Now we're not strangers." Sophie grabbed Emma's hand with the confidence of a child who had never learned to fear rejection. "What kind do you want?" Emma felt tears threatening. "The small vanilla one," she managed. "The one with white frosting." "No charge for the birthday girl," the clerk said, winking at Daniel, who discreetly slipped a 20 into the tip jar. As the clerk prepared both cakes, Sophie chatted nonstop to Emma about kindergarten, her teacher, the class hamster named Mr. Whiskers. "Would you like to sit with us?" Daniel asked. "We were going to have a cake celebration here." Emma hesitated. But Sophie was already pushing a chair aside to make room for the wheelchair. "Just for a few minutes," Emma agreed. They settled at a small table by the window. Sophie insisted they sing Happy Birthday, her voice high and sweet, while Daniel's baritone provided harmony. Other customers joined in spontaneously. When they finished, Sophie commanded her to make a wish. Emma closed her eyes. Maybe just for this moment to last a little longer. She blew out the single candle the clerk had added, and Sophie cheered. "What did you wish for?" Sophie asked, then immediately covered her mouth. "Wait, you can't tell or it won't come true." The casual mention of death shifted the atmosphere. "I'm sorry," she said quietly. "4 years ago," Daniel said simply. "Brain aneurysm. You learn to live around the absence." Emma understood exactly. My grandmother died 2 years ago, right after my accident. She was all I had left. That's why you were alone on your birthday, Sophie said matter-of-factly. Because all your people went to heaven. That's sad. But now you have us. We can be your birthday people, right, Daddy? Daniel looked at Emma, seeing her clearly for the first time. Sophie has decided apparently. And she's very persistent when she makes decisions. What did you do before? Daniel asked. I was studying music, Emma said. Piano specifically. I lived it, breathed it. When the accident took my legs, it somehow took that too. I still teach a little online, but it's not the same. Daniel heard the grief in her voice. Do you still have a piano? A keyboard, Emma admitted. I sold my grandmother's piano for medical bills. Sophie perked up. We have a piano. A big one that nobody plays. You could play ours. She turned to her father with excitement. Can she, Daddy? Actually, Emma interrupted, surprising herself. I don't. Today's my birthday, and I have absolutely nothing to do except go home to my empty apartment and eat cake alone. But I couldn't impose. It's not imposing if we're inviting you, Daniel said. And Sophie's right. The piano hasn't been played in years. It would be nice to hear music in the house again. Emma wanted to say yes so badly it physically hurt. I don't know if I can play anymore. Not really play. So try, Sophie said with the simple wisdom of childhood. If it's hard, we'll help. That's what friends do. Okay, she said before fear could change her mind. But I'll need help getting in the car. We have a van, Daniel said. Plenty of room for your chair. The drive to Daniel's house took them through neighborhoods that gradually shifted from Emma's familiar working-class streets to tree-lined avenues where houses sat back from the road like shy giants. The house was beautiful but not ostentatious. A two-story colonial with white pillars and black shutters. The interior was warm and lived in despite its size. Children's artwork covered the refrigerator. The piano sat in what must have been intended as a formal living room. A Steinway grand, its black surface gleaming despite the thin layer of dust. It needs tuning, Daniel said apologetically. Emma wheeled herself to the bench, her hands trembling as she lifted the fallboard. She played a simple scale, listening to the tone. Her hands found a C major chord, then a progression. And suddenly she was playing. A simple melody at first, something her grandmother used to hum while cooking. Then variations that grew increasingly complex as her fingers remembered their purpose. Sophie stood transfixed. Daniel leaned against the door frame, watching Emma transform. The music filled the house, chasing away shadows that had lived there for 4 years. When Emma finally stopped, her face wet with tears, Sophie exploded into applause. That was magic. Real magic. I haven't played like that since before, Emma said, her voice wondering. I didn't think I could anymore. Sophie climbed onto the piano bench beside Emma. Will you teach me? Emma looked at Daniel, questioning. He nodded. If you're willing. I've been meaning to find her a teacher. They spent the rest of the afternoon at the piano. When evening came, Daniel insisted Emma stay for dinner. Nothing fancy, just spaghetti. The meal was simple but perfect. After dinner, Sophie begged to show Emma her room. This is Mr. Bubbles, Sophie said, presenting a stuffed elephant. And this is my mom. She pointed to a photo on her nightstand. She was beautiful, Emma said honestly. As the evening wound down, Daniel drove Emma home. Thank you, he said. For playing for us, for making Sophie laugh. For making the house feel alive again. Thank you for the cake, Emma said. For treating me like a person instead of a problem to be solved. You're not a problem, Emma. He paused. You're a gift we didn't know we needed. 3 days passed before Daniel called. Sophie hasn't stopped talking about you. She's been practicing finger exercises on the kitchen table. Piano lessons twice a week. I'll pay your regular rate. $20 an hour, Emma said, embarrassed. That's ridiculous. We'll do 75. Okay, she agreed. Wednesdays and Saturdays. Weeks passed in a rhythm of lessons and lingering conversations. Daniel started joining them at the piano sometimes. One Saturday in early December, Emma arrived to find the house being decorated for Christmas. We're decorating. You have to help, Sophie said. They spent the afternoon decorating. When they reached a delicate glass angel, Sophie grew quiet. This was Mommy's favorite. Next year you can help place it, Sophie declared. That evening, after Sophie had fallen asleep on the couch, Daniel sat beside Emma on the piano bench. She's attached to you. I'm attached to her too, Emma admitted. To both of you. Emma, Daniel turned to face her fully. I need to tell you something. I looked up your blog. There was a post from 3 years ago about saving a little girl at a crosswalk. Red rain boots with ducks, curly brown hair, a unicorn backpack. Emma's breath caught as the memory surfaced. A rainy day before her accident. A child who had darted into traffic. Emma, that was Sophie. You saved my daughter. And then years later you came back into our lives when we needed saving again. Emma was crying now. It's fate, Daniel said softly. He leaned closer. I can't, she whispered. I can't be someone's project. Stop. His voice was sharp. Is that really what you think? When I look at you, I don't see the wheelchair. I see a woman who survived losses that would break most people. I see someone I'm falling for. I'm scared, Emma whispered. Then we go slow, Daniel said. No pressure, just see where it goes. Their first real kiss happened 2 weeks later after Sophie's school Christmas concert. In the parking lot with snow falling around them, Daniel kissed her like she was precious. I love you, he said against her lips. I love you too, she whispered back. Spring arrived. Emma had practically moved in. One April evening, Daniel was nervous during dinner. Emma, Daniel said finally, dropping to one knee beside her wheelchair. Will you marry me? Emma couldn't speak through her tears, so she just nodded. They married in June in the backyard. Daniel carried Emma down the aisle while Sophie stood as maid of honor. They opened a piano school for disabled children called Keys to Hope. Emma wrote her book dedicating it to her grandmother, Sophie, and Daniel. This story started with a birthday wish, Emma told the crowd. I wished for something small. What I got was a reminder that we all matter. Every year on Emma's birthday, they went to the bakery and bought cake for someone who needed it. The tradition spread. The bakery started a Pay It Forward cake fund. Years later, when Sophie was 16, she wrote her college essay about finding her second mother over a birthday cake. The night before Sophie left for college, they went to the bakery one last time as a family. Were you scared that day when Dad first talked to you? Terrified. But you stayed. You saved us, Emma. We saved each other, Emma corrected. That's what family does. On Emma's 30th birthday, she sat at the piano in their home, playing while Daniel worked and Sophie painted. Outside, snow began to fall. And Emma smiled, remembering another snowy day when $3 wasn't enough for cake, but was exactly enough for everything that mattered.